Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Saul Sunforge for Dungeons and Taverns. Hopefully, you're all having a great day out there. It's rather cold here, so I got my hoodie on. But the Steelers are playing later on today. Ben Roethlisberger's last regular season NFL game. We'll see if they can make it to the playoffs. Anyway. Today's video is going to be DM tips. A lot of them are for beginner DMs, but there's a lot of advanced tips in there too. I feel that they are. And there's a whole lot more players than there are DMs. That's not going to ever change. As D&D becomes more popular, it's actually going to the balance is going to be even greater to the player side. There will always be more people wanting to receive your work than to give out work. And some players just aren't confident that they could be a DM. It's not always selfish reasons, of course. There's always exceptions to really anything I say. Even there's exceptions to. I wrote out a little bit of a dialogue to let you know, to just kind of shoot the shit with you, really, on some things that DMs do that aren't good or could do to improve their game. So let's go ahead and get started. Some of these tips have been in other videos. If you watch most of my videos all the way through, you'll receive tips that aren't even related to that video, but are related to D&D. And so I wanted to consolidate some of them, add some new tips for you, and see what happens, see what we got here. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Let's get to it. So the first tip is don't create too much. And these tips aren't in any order of importance necessarily. Just my thoughts written out and numbered, essentially. Don't create too much. If there's no other tip on this list that you take away from this video, please take this advice, though. When you're a DM, and especially a new DM, the notion that you must create as much as possible is strong. You'll want to go and create the entire world before session 1 even starts. As a brand new DM, I would not do that. And if you're going to create the world just for that one campaign, I wouldn't do that. If you're going to create a world that multiple campaigns or multiple groups and multiple campaigns take place in, then it's a little bit different. But fight the urge to create too much. I still fight the urge all the time, because my mindset is really always thinking about D&D. At work, at home, when I'm about to go to sleep, my eyes are closed and I'm tossing and turning. It's because I have sleeping issues, but doesn't help me, because I have a lot of D&D ideas that come to me when I'm just laying there just thinking. And so I have to hurry up and run out the room and go write it down on the computer or notepad or something, so I don't forget it. A lot of times, if I don't do that, I find when I wake up in the morning, that notion that I had, that idea, that spark of creativity, is forgotten. And most likely it's forgotten forever. And I hate that. I hate it. And so, pardon me. Allergies. And so I get up and write my ideas and stuff. But when you create, make sure it's enough for the session. And I mean, that session only. You might have a little bit of overlap. That's cool. You're just getting some of your work done for the next session. Uh, but if you find that you're constantly creating too much, maybe dial it back a bit, just to save your sanity. Most DMs will burn out because of overcreation. And so you kind of want to pace yourself, right? I made a video, with my map making software, Incarnate. It's one of them that I use, and showed some of the things that you should have. But I'm going to reiterate some of those things. So when the campaign starts out, if it starts out in a city, then obviously create that settlement. Make a few NPCs, and maybe a dungeon outside the city, or maybe even under the city, inside the city. You could get pretty creative with it, and that's already pretty intriguing. What's under the city? And you'll usually find that it's drow and beholders and mind flayers. No, so don't. No, I'm just kidding. Not always though. Just not obviously at first level. But so yeah, then you can make like a trading post, and have an NPC or two traveling the road that the players can stop and interact with, and maybe have a battle or two in there. And that's enough for really that little bit is actually enough for like 2 or 3 sessions. Combat takes the longest in D&D by far. And D&D, if you look at the rules, if you read the rules, the rule books and things, you'll see that I don't want to. I mean, like 75%, maybe 80% of it are rules for combat. Your characters, your builds, all those rules are for combat. There's a little bit of RP stuff in there, but it's mostly combat. If you look at the feats, there's some cool RP feats, but most of them are combat. And some of the players at the table, won't pick RP feats because they feel like their character is going to be getting dragged down. But I'm digressing too much. So just create enough that you'll need, maybe a little bit extra, and expand outwards from there. Okay? So you have your forest or a swamp or a volcano or a mountain, a cave, whatever you have to facilitate the adventure, and then expand from there. Start at the city and then go to a capital and then a kingdom and just go on from there. And you'll be fine. If you expand in either direction a little bit, you'll be good to go. And if you prefer not to do theater of the mind, stuff, when the players get to the edge of what you created, just let them know out of character, like, hey, I actually haven't physically created stuff on that side yet. So if you're okay, we'll go ahead and explore that next session. Players understand. You're only one person. You're not a whole video game company, and they take years to create this stuff. You're just one person, and so your players will understand. The next point that I have is a quest board system, and what that is. Well, before I start, I guess I should say, don't overuse this. And really don't overuse anything that you do, because it starts getting predictable and boring. If the characters are trying to save the world, every single quest, that's boring. That's boring. You have to lead up to that kind of stuff. But I digress again. So the quest board system is a system to funnel the players and things that they may want to do onto a quest board in the town. basically help wanted. The modern day equivalent of posting a flyer and taping it or stapling it to a phone pole. You know, you see those flyers all around. Buy junk cars, sell your house. Diet stuff. You see it all over the place, right? Well, that's what a quest board is, but it's for D&D. So you'll have maybe 3 quests on there is good. You can have some filler stuff, advertisements and things like that. Maybe to make the world feel more alive. They're not necessarily things that are going to be interacted with the player. Besides just reading it, but it's there to make the world feel like it's a world, like that they're interacting actually in an actual tangible physical environment. And that's when D&D becomes the best, is when players forget that they're players and get into their characters and get into your world, your factions, your lore, your NPCs, your quests. That's when D&D shines. And the quest board system allows it all to be right there. You design the quest, 2, 3 quests, whatever you want, and the players pick one. And even if you want, going off of my previous point of not designing too much, wait until the characters pick one. At the end of the session, make sure you plan it towards the end of the session, and then design that. This way, they don't know if you've already had it designed or not. It doesn't really matter if they know or not, because you're facilitating their entertainment. They'll be patient, of course, but the reason you do it at the end of the session is to give you that prep time to make it as best as you possibly can, instead of having to improv the whole thing, theater of the mind style. So yeah, just don't use it in every town. If you want to, you can, but I mean, after a while, it gets boring for the players, and they'll stop interacting with it, and then you actually reversed what you wanted to happen. So don't use it too much. Excuse me. Let's see, what else? Let me see here. I'm just reading the headlines. I'm not even really reading my notes. I'm just talking. Let me go ahead and read my notes, exactly what I wrote here. First, I want to say don't overuse this method. Okay, covered that. It becomes tedious and boring to the players. Covered that. The quest board system is a funneling. Covered that. Okay. But yeah, the quest board lets you know the player's intentions going forward. And you can use those intentions to shape your campaign. That's about it. I'm not going to go line item for line item. I'm not going to do it. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to do it. And I don't want to sound like a robot, I'm not going to do it. But, I'll read the headline. The next one is don't waste time. D&D, it's not usually played like with the same group of people daily. And some people are already friends, and some people, groups are strangers who end up becoming friends. And so there's a lot of talking going on that has nothing to do with the campaign, but it has to do with your personal life, your friendship building, and things like that. It's cool. That's great. D&D is amazing for making friends if you want it to be. But I would caution allowing players to do those things too far into the set allotted amount of time that you have for the session. DMs, you usually plan out a session that's like 3 to 5 hours long. Maybe sometimes longer. Really, whatever. It depends on how much time you guys have. And if it's a shorter amount of time, 3 hours, 5 hours, then an hour of talking, during the session time, but before it actually started, eats really heavily into your session. And over a campaign, it basically will add 10 to 20 sessions total to the campaign time that you kind of had in your head, how long your campaign was going to go. And so it's going to actually eat up more time. So what you want to do is maybe tell the players, if they wish to talk, come early if that's available to you, depending on your situation, on where you're playing and who's hosting and whatnot. And sorry, I had to put that down. Usually, combat is the culprit for slowdowns in the campaign. So, if you add the combat to all the cross talking, the talking before the session actually gets started, because you're waiting for everybody to stop talking so you can get going, I would go ahead and give the players maybe 10 to 15 minutes into the session to talk, get some stuff out, and then get going. And then there's intermissions, usually in the session for bathroom breaks and stuff. Let players talk a little bit during that time, 5-10 minutes there, and then get back to it. And then at the end of the session, players feel free to, as long as obviously you're allowed to, because of the host and all those things I said before, if you're able to, let the players stay and congregate for as long as they want. If you're the host, as long as you want, according to the situation. And if you're already, the players are and you are already friends, and you kind of just want to chill out and maybe have some food and drinks and just roll some dice and have a good time, and the amount of time that you spend on the session, on the campaign overall, isn't necessarily important too much to you or to the players. You're just having a good time, then don't worry about it and feel free to ignore that advice. The next point that I have is be a fan of your followers. Here's the deal. You're the DM, and you can kill your players anytime you want. No, not the play. No, you can't kill the players. You can kill their characters. Hopefully you're not killing your players. I mean, when you die in D&D, you die in real life. Oh shit! No, don't kill your players. What do you? If you as the DM, you can kill their characters anytime, because you control everything that the players don't control. And so you got a lot of power, but don't abuse it. Don't abuse the power. Your players are trusting you that you're not going to abuse your power, and you're trusting your players not to be little shits. And that's the best ideal campaign ever. If you have those two situations, you can go pretty far, because let me tell you, as a DM, you're not going to always have good players. They're going to, not good in terms of can they play well. Good in terms of they're going to come, they're going to be smelly. They're going to be talkative, loud. They're going to speak over other players, cut them off. They're going to cheat. You know what I'm saying? So, you want to be a fan of your players. And past D&D editions, at least to me, felt very adversarial, meaning that as the DM, you kind of felt like you were supposed to screw the players over, and then the players felt like you were trying to screw them over, and so they would try to sabotage your campaign. And then because the players are trying to sabotage your campaign, you feel like you have to railroad them and block them at every turn from doing what they want. And because you're doing that, they're going to go ahead and try to cheat the system. And it's a very big downward spiral. And that's the way I've always felt about older editions. It could be just my experience because of the DM that I had in the Navy, because they're mostly all adversarial. They love combat. They love putting you up against impossible odds that you couldn't ever beat and not letting you know beforehand. They love trapping you in endless traps that you can't get out of. Just terrible nonsense that I had to deal with over there, let me tell you. But be a fan of your players, because generally your players, are going to outsmart you. They're going to. allow it to happen. Allow it to happen. That's a reward. Um, there's 4 to 6 players, maybe more, maybe less sometimes, but there's always one of you. You'll never have two of you. Um, you know, and so the players with their collective brain power, excuse me, should be able to outsmart you at every turn if they wish to. But it's a game, and so you don't want to feel adversarial, to feel like these situations need to happen, because it's just a death spiral, really. Um, okay, so screwing over the players is basically a way to throw your campaign in the trash, uh, as they look for ways to kill main NPCs. That's how you make murder hobos. You know, and I feel like that's like the highest degree of probability to that players become murder hobos, murder hobos. Um, and another reason is because they're used to computer games or console games, and they're just not used to how D&D goes yet. But generally, just don't screw your players over. Uh, Instead, you want to challenge your players' character abilities, and you want to challenge the players themselves with overcoming obstacles, traps, and riddles, and puzzles, and all those logic type things that are fun. They can be fun if you do them. It's not just down to a dice roll. If you actually have them figure out these things, like as if their character was in the equivalent of a IRL escape room, and then they manage to get out, solve the puzzle, bypass the door, get past the magical trap, you know, um, you know, all the various thousands and millions of ways that you can do these things. They feel like badasses, and you should cheer them along. Uh, your goal as a DM is kind of tricky, but you have to differentiate. You are playing the enemies, right? You're also playing their allies too. But when you're playing the enemies, play them like an enemy, like somebody who wants their destruction. Play them smart according to the enemy's intelligence, and the monster manuals that you'll be able to find, and all the various third-party supplements that are excellent out there. Um, you'll be able to find uh, that they have stats, right? Their intelligence and strength and all those types of things. Play them, as well as you can, appropriate to those things. Beasts of burden and things, type monsters usually don't have great intelligence, but they have like an animal ferocity. So they're not going to go and pick out the spellcaster, because the spellcaster is far away, just raining down destruction about their head and neck area. Um, you want to play the creatures appropriately. Mind flayers, beholders, very, very smart, very intelligent, very cunning, conniving, generally evil, and they should know how to fight, because they've been in fights, many fights, and they survived. And that's why they're the badasses that they are. And that's why when you put them on the table, the players tremble in fear. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, be a fan of your players, man. You want them to get to the end of your campaign. You don't want to give them a screw job. You don't want to put them in no-win situations without letting them know, with appropriate amounts of foreshadowing, that that's a possibility to happen. If they go down that hallway and it's an empty room and the door locks behind them and the wall starts closing in rapidly and the DC to get out of the room is 35, and you just don't want to keep stacking this stuff for the players. They're going to feel like you screwed them, and you did. But take a look at it further. You're actually screwing yourself, okay? Because you took the time to create the campaign, to write the pages, to create the story, to get everybody involved, the factions, the religions, all of that stuff, the loot, everything. You created this for the players' enjoyment and for your own enjoyment too. And so by screwing the players over, you're screwing yourself. You might as well throw your campaign in the trash because you wasted months of your time or weeks, weeks or years of your time. If you have that kind of time, you're some type of long-lived species or something, then whatever, do your thing. But as a human being with only so many hours of free time because of your job and all those types of things, and you don't want to waste time, do you? I don't. I don't. And so you want the characters ideally to get to the end of the campaign, to get to the BBEG, the ultimate overarching bad guy, and you want them to be successful. At the same time that you're playing an enemy who doesn't want them to be successful. So, cheer on their successes, encourage them, give them time to shine, each individual player, give them their arcs, explore their backstories with them, help, work with them out of session to flesh out things that they may want to happen to their character. You don't need to incorporate all that stuff, but you need to incorporate, or you should incorporate, if you wish to be, known as a good GM or DM or however you want to say it. If you want them to look on you with positive feelings, you should encourage them to do well. And whenever they do well, you should be excited for them, because that means your campaign was a success. They seen the big bad evil guy at the end. Hopefully they defeated him. If they didn't, that's part of the story too. But hopefully they enjoyed the experience, and that's what we're going for is those great tight experiences. My next point is read your books, and every DM and writers too actually have a creative block that happens to them at some point. You just can't think of what to do next. There's so many options. You're just not really sure of what you should do. You feel like you've tried some of these things before in the campaign, and you don't want to present these same things again because you're afraid the players are going to call you out on it. Like, hey, we fought on a bridge before against some enemies. Things like that. So you want to make sure that you change up everything, just a bit, to make it unique and dynamic to that encounter. Excuse me. So reading your books, I'm not talking about just the Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook and what have you. I'm talking about actual books that you can go to the library and check out for free. Usually, some libraries, require like $1 a month or something. Whatever. It's not expensive. The benefits that you'll gain from doing these things is that you're going to be feeling like a boss battle, man. You're going to be filling your tank of inspiration, and you will never run out. And so you're going to stave off writer's block for as long as you can if you keep reading. Another reason is character creation. Some of the best characters are created already for you. And don't use those characters one for one. If you're creating a Tyrion Lannister, for instance, I happen to love Tyrion. If you're creating a Tyrion Lannister, for instance, you don't want to make an NPC named Tyrion Lannister unless you're making a Game of Thrones direct campaign. You don't want to name your NPC Cersei or any of that stuff, man. You don't want to do that. Your players are going to hammer the hell out of you. Don't do it. Don't do it. Instead, what you want to do is you want to take the character personalities, the traits, the bonds, the flaws of those characters, what makes them unique, and you want to spin it into D&D, into your own character. And you could combine characters from shows or go to different genres even. D&D, yeah, it's mostly fantasy. They started adding like some sci-fi things and whatever. But your characters don't have to be just from fantasy. They don't have to be just from books. They can be from movies and shows that you enjoy, or cartoons even. Anime. There's so many inspirations out there for you that you can literally combine characters from two different genres into one character, and your party will never know that's what you did for your inspiration. It's already done for you. It's already done for you. So why would you not take advantage of that? So just read some books, man. Just read some books, and you'll have all the inspiration you'll ever need. You'll never run out, because there's so many books out there. I'm not saying go read 18 hours of books a day, man. Just if you're on the pot, man, going to the bathroom, just open up a book, or if you're relaxing in the tub, man, just open it up, get going. Libraries let you check out books for 2 weeks or 4. I think my library is like 6 weeks, but I turn the books in fast because I try to read them in a weekend, because that's like that's when I have my free time, and so I try to smash it all into my free time, so this way I could not compromise anything else in my life. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much that. What else? Work on your improv. A lot of D&D is improv. Every NPC conversation is improv. If you have your monsters talk, that's improv. Even their actions in combat is really improv. So before you start playing the session, read up on your monster's abilities, maybe plan out some of their moves, conditionally even. If the players get close, the monster does this. If the players back off, the monster does that. Type of things. And practice your improv, because your players are going to eventually and often do things that you didn't expect. And writing out the entire dialogue for every NPC is going to cause you to lose your mind. You're going to go crazy if you do that. So what you should do is, just if it's an important NPC, just make a few bullet points, and then just start a conversation as if it was you having a conversation with your friend in person, using those bullet points. Just talk naturally, and maybe introduce the mannerisms of the NPC as you're talking. Scratching their chin, rubbing their head, things like that. And if you're confident enough, if you have the time, go watch some improv. Most of your cities are going to be large enough that they have some type of improv group, or groups, or theater itself. Those are great. And if you're confident enough at starting out or over time, go ahead and maybe you want to join some of those groups, and it doesn't have to be a daily thing or whatever, a weekly thing. It could be a monthly thing, but as long as you're working at these things, the reading the books and the improv, they go together. You're going to be honing your craft, and whether you know it and whether you like it or not, doing these things, it's going to make you head and shoulders above most DMs out there, because most DMs out there don't do those things. They just don't. The next tip, and it's actually the last tip, because the game started 15 minutes ago, and I don't want to miss too much of it. So let's go fast. I'm going to read this directly so I could go fast as I can. All right, so relax. Being a DM is intense at times, and if you're a nervous person to start with, well, you're in for a wild ride of nerves, stuttering, and just silence because you just can't think of what to do or say in a given moment, and so it's going to get stuck in your throat. You just don't know what to do. So when you sense that moment happening, excuse yourself from the table, go use the restroom, you know, even if you don't actually have to use the restroom, just go to the restroom. Maybe wash your face, relax, breathe. It's going to be fine. I promise it's going to be fine. Use that time to think about the situation that caused you this contention. Okay, think about the situation. You're away from it right now. Anything you say or think right now has no effect on what's happening at that table right now, because those players are still talking about the game and what's going on and what they're going to do next, and maybe having cross chat, table talk about what they're doing in life and stuff that's not happening in the game. And so use that 10 minutes or so to breathe, just think about the problem that you're facing right now. And I promise you, you're going to come up with a whole bunch of stuff. And you're going to get back to that table like a boss, basically beasting, and you're going to come up with something that's going to blow their mind. Guaranteed. I have faith in you. You should have faith in yourself. Hopefully I helped you. And if I did, drop one of these and give me a follow. And if you could be so kind, if you know other people who may be interested in what I have to present to you, let them know. Word of mouth is the best advertising, I find. At least for me, I actually, if I'm listening to like Spotify or iHeartRadio or something, and the commercial, plays the same message too many times, it actually makes me not buy that item out of spite. Word of mouth is actually the best advertising. You have friends who are, have common interests, and if you're interested in something, let them know, and they take your recommendation much over the recommendation of somebody they've never ever seen or heard. They don't know who they are. So I appreciate all of you, all of my viewers. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.